we tonight? That is what I like to hear. I hope you've all had an incredible day at work. Thank you so much for coming. I know work's been really great for me recently, fantastic research, which you guys are going to hear all about, and some great people that I work with. Though I do have a male colleague who thinks women aren't funny, so I'm actually here tonight to prove him wrong. Shout out to Shane. Thanks for your money. So to do that, I'm going to talk about something that we all have, DNA. DNA is like the instruction manual for your body. In the form of genes, it encodes the information needed to make your eyes brown, your hair black, and your height 5'9". Even if your Hinge profile might say 6'1". Shout out to Frank. But what happens when things go wrong? This is when mutations or errors can arise. Now, when you think of the word mutations, a few things might come to mind. Perhaps you think of this, perhaps you think of this, or perhaps you think of this. Now, I'm particularly interested in studying what's known as acquired or somatic mutations. These are not inherited from your parents, but instead they actually arise in your body post-conception. Importantly, they only affect some of the tissues and cells in your body, which is why Spider-Man looks like this and not like this. But in reality, most mutations are not visible to the naked eye. And in fact, each and every one of you already has thousands of somatic mutations. However, most of these are harmless and will only affect a few cells. Frankly, they don't do a whole lot, just like this clicker. For the unlucky few though, some of these mutations can go on to become very dangerous and can have very widespread effects. So the challenge is knowing which mutations are dangerous, knowing how these mutations can cause disease, and finally knowing how we can target these mutations to help improve patients. And that's where I come in. Scientific researchers such as myself. Here I am, mixing my favourite chemicals in the lab, a little bit of ethanol, touch of carbon dioxide, and a dash of citric acid. Got myself a nice vodka lime soda, with a dash of E. coli probably. Now, when I'm not drinking on the clock, shout out to my boss, please don't fire me, I'm doing shit. Quite literally, I'm studying shit, also known as inflammatory bowel disease, IBD, or my Saturday morning. And an extra shout out to SCO don't take that shit. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I'm not loving it. Now, in all seriousness though, IBD is a really severe and chronic disease. It's chronic inflammation of the digestive tract, which results in pain and swelling. And this can lead to symptoms including bleeding, fatigue, and diarrhea. Doesn't sound fun, does it? However, Australia actually has one of the highest rates of IBD in the world. Now, we don't know why this is. Perhaps it's one too many late night out Indian kebabs. Perhaps it's one too many $2 Bunnings snags. Or perhaps, in the case of Tony Abbott, one too many onions. So I'm going to talk about a case study of IBD today, of a female teenage patient who first presented with IBD at age 5. As if this wasn't bad enough, she also has the can't eat pasta disease with celiac. Now, she also has permanent airway damage, and when we look at her disease-fighting white blood cells, she has an increase in two types called monocytes and eosinophils, which can wreak havoc when present in too large numbers, and conversely, she has an absence of antibodies, which is what your body produces in response to infection and vaccine. But hey, at least she can't be tracked with those 5G nanochips. So to delve into the genetics of this patient, we started off with some blood, which I do promise we collected ethically. We took this blood and we sequenced every gene in the genome, and from this, we found a mutation. So there was a somatic mutation in a gene called STAT5B, which plays an important role in immune signaling, and particularly so in the gut. But wait, just when we thought we'd only found the one pathogenic mutation, an intruder has entered the mansion. That's right, we found a second possibly pathogenic somatic mutation in a gene called KRAS, which does unfortunately have the potential to become cancerous. Now, both of these mutations are gain of function, meaning that they increase the activity of the gene. What's more, we found these mutations in 18 to 25% of sequencing reads, so roughly the same percentage of Sydney drivers who actually indicate when they're about to turn. In all seriousness though, those mutations are present at quite a high percentage for somatic mutations. So to figure out if any particular white blood cell populations might be harbouring the mutations, I sorted some immune cell populations from the blood, extracted the DNA of interest with our two mutations, and pulled them all together and did some sequencing. From this, I obtained 12 million sequencing reads. That's a heck of a lot of sequencing reads, isn't it? In fact, it's 12 million more reads than Pete Evans' The Complete Gut Health Cookbook. Now, if we were to believe him, our patient's condition would be fixed with a few green beans, a raw carrot, and a healthy dash of rejuvenating light. But getting back to the real science, I was able to find that our two mutations are present in not just one, but in all of the 5 immune cell populations which we investigated. What's more, they were present in 50% of sequencing reads, which means that most of these cells would carry one mutant copy of these 2 genes. Now, this means that whilst they might have started out in perhaps one or a few cells, they've replicated in a way that they're now very widespread and prolific, just like misinformation about the MMR vaccine. So, to find out when these mutations might have arisen, I got to play forensic detective. So I repeated that same experiment, but this time using DNA from a gut biopsy taken from when the patient was age 5, when the symptoms first began. And from this, I once again found both mutations were in fact present. Given that they were present at a relatively high frequency of 25%, this suggests that they were present even earlier than age 5. So I'm currently going back even further and trying to extract DNA from what's known as a Guthrie card. Now, this is blood taken from a heel prick from all babies at birth. Now, I don't know about you, but I'd never heard of a Guthrie card before starting this project. But it really goes to show just how much access to our information the government has. First, all of my online passwords, then my foot DNA. What's next? Those foot pics I sold on the internet that one time. That'll actually be $300, please and thank you. But no, how does this all tie together? So that STAT5B mutation, STAT5B is often dysregulated in cases of inflammatory bowel disease. Similarly, gain-of-function mutations can increase the number of eosinophils, which when they infiltrate the lungs can lead to that airway damage. And finally, that KRAS mutation has led to an additional diagnosis in the patient of RAUD, which is another autoimmune disorder. It's also been fantastic doing this research, as we've been able to help with the treatment of the patient. So we've been able to help with a personalised medicine for the patient, which is reducing the overactivity of that STAT5B signalling pathway. Now, I think we could use this drug on a few things, but first and foremost, to slow down the Sydney landlords at the moment. This is fantastic though, because the patient's condition is improving, but also, who doesn't love drugs? That's right, I'm out here running the opposite campaign to Healthy Harold. And if you all look under your chairs right now, never know a new town, but no, our research can help to develop more targeted medicine. So why should you care about all of this? I've got 4 key takeaways from my talk today. Firstly, we all have somatic mutations, but for the unlucky few, these can lead to severe and chronic disorders. But through further scientific research, we can understand how these mutations can lead to pathology and help to design personalised medicine to help treat patients. And finally, my co-worker Shane is an idiot. Thank you and good night.